Good afternoon, YouTube. Chips O'Toole here again, still struggling to work my camera. I finally got it to work on, what am I trying to say? I used to turn it on and it would have a wide angle no matter what I did, and it would have tremendous resolution and 300 frames per second or whatever it is. And this is stuff that even NASA doesn't need. You know, your TV really, even if it displays this stuff, you probably can't tell the difference between normal resolution, normal high-end resolution and what I was getting. And it made these giant files, and the other problem was you could pretty much stand behind the camera and still be in the shot, which was irritating. So I didn't have that much interest in being in the shot. So I think I got it working. I'm using an old cell phone to control it, and really an annoying camera to work with. Sometimes it just turns off. Sometimes it starts, I'll be carrying it around and it'll start taking pictures of the floor, which I haven't figured out. I'm sure I guess in China, maybe there's some significance to that. Maybe that's a popular hobby like planking, I don't know. But it does that. So this thing I'm done with. This is my lovely, wonderful bench grinder pedestal. Extremely happy with it. I don't know if you can tell, there's a slight bend to this top, but I don't care. When I welded it up, I didn't clamp the top down. Everything else I clamped in place, and there were no warps, and it's really nice and square. It's great. It moves around good. You can't knock it over. When you put the brakes on and you push it, it'll actually, what am I trying to say? It'll defeat the brakes and start rolling before it'll fall over. So I'm not worried about it at all. I think it's just tremendous. It sounds like something is stuck in here. Okay. Anyway, that's the story with that. So I'm quite pleased. So now I'll show you my next project. Okay. This is my Arbor press, and of course it's Chinese because you can find these things on Craigslist, like nice old American ones made by Dake and other companies. And I guess I should have done that. I eventually saw some really nice ones, 2 years after I bought this. Of course, I would have gone 2 years without an Arbor press, so that's something to think about. Anyway, this was like 135 bucks from eBay, and it seems to work fine. My guess about Arbor presses is that a cheap one is just as good as an expensive one because it's not a precision tool. As long as it doesn't break and it pushes, I don't know what else you could ask from it. So it works. It's extremely crude. There's all kinds of things that need to be ground off, and I wouldn't say need to be, but it would be nice if they were. There's all sorts of crude things on the casting. Maybe I can show you one. I'm on the way back. Don't get antsy. So, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, being the great camera technician that I am. But if you look in here, you'll see there's some crud where this thing, I guess, was cast. It must have been cast. I don't know. It looks cast. There's some stuff hanging out there into the area where you put objects that you're pressing, and that's not very good. It actually gets in the way sometimes. So, there's things like that all over this. Nonetheless, it's a nice tool. And I want to make a stand for it because I'm not going to sit on the floor and use it. I had a stand that I made before. I made it before I learned how to weld without warping things. So the stand worked just fine, but it was wobbly and only 3 corners of it really touched the ground. So I'm going to try to do better this time. I got a bunch of steel, and I also have a new welding table, which I will now show you. This is my new welding table, which I got at Northern Tool. This is a Clutch table. I guess Clutch is their house brand. I was thinking about, I either wanted to get a pretty nice table. I was thinking about getting a fab block from weldtables.com, like a 2x4 foot job, and that's $1,000. So it's expensive, and it's also really heavy, and I don't know how long I'm going to be living here. I may want to move. So I was thinking it'd be nice to get something smaller and lighter. I was really torn, and the other alternative, I thought I might make one. I'm thinking I'd like to make a welding table. My milling machine and my lathe are about to be moved up to where I am, and when that happens, I'll be able to make parts for the welding table that would be really impossible to make well without machine tools. So all these things are on my mind, but this thing is really nice for what you pay for it. These things ordinarily this would be like a $400 table, but Northern Tool puts it on sale every once in a while for $180. So they put it on sale for 180 bucks, and they advertised a $10 gift certificate to go with it. So that's $169. And they throw in all this stuff, all these doodads that you can use for fixturing, and it's not bad. It's got a 4 millimeter thick top, And of course I use it for storage already. I've had it for like 4 days and I'm already storing things on top of it, which shows that I know what a welding table is for. Anyway, I felt like for that price, it was really hard to say no. It's not too heavy. It's like 70 pounds, something like that. And if I decide I don't like it, or I'm not going to say I'm not going to like it. Obviously, I'm going to like it. There's nothing wrong with it. But if I decide I want something better later on, or if I don't want to keep this, I have a feeling Northern Tool is going to jack up the price again because that's what they've done in the past. And once they do that, I ought to be able to get every dime I put into this thing back out. The fixturing stuff seems to work fine. I mean, it's all Chinese, but how great does it have to be? You know, it just has to hold stuff in place. So this is what I'm hoping to use. It's nice and flat. I'll tell you what, I've seen people talking about these things on the internet, and they say some of them are flat and some are not. Well, this thing has a crown of around a 32nd of an inch. It's like a 32nd of an inch higher in the middle than it is at the ends. And I figured that out by putting a yardstick on it, a straight yardstick. And I turned the yardstick over, you know, because the yardstick, how straight is that thing going to be? But if you turn it over and you compare the measurements on both sides, you know, I'm pretty confident that this thing has a crown of about a 32nd of an inch, because when you lift it up, when you put it down on one end of the table flat, the other end is up by almost a 16th of an inch. So a 32nd of an inch over 3 feet, how bad can it be? I mean, I can't weld that well anyway, so I'm not going to complain about it. You know, I had these thoughts. I thought, oh, I'll find some way to stick it in the press or something, and I thought, no, you know, you're an idiot. Just leave it alone. So this is what I'm planning to use, and I'm going to MIG it, the project. I guess I should have pointed that out. It's going to be a welding project. And here's my steel. I got this a couple of days ago. I got all excited because I finished the pedestal. And I bought all this stuff, and I don't know if you can tell what this is, but there's 2 plates here, and there's 4 big uprights, and there's 2 other pieces. This is 1 by 3 inch tubing, 1/8 of an inch thick. The plates are 1/4 of an inch thick, which is probably overkill, but after I warped the top of the pedestal, I felt bad, so I got this stuff, which is thicker. So the idea is I'm just going to weld this thing up, and it's going to have 2 shelves, which is what the plate is for. The top shelf is going to have a little U-shaped hole in it because the Arbor press is going to sit on top of it, and the Arbor press has a place where things go through. You know, the things that you press, they have to go through the end of it, so there's like a cavity cut into it, so that there's going to be a similar, you know, cutout in the top shelf. And then I'm going to put this other piece here, which is shorter, in there for a shelf midway through, and it'll also make it rigid. I don't know how much I'll be able to store on it, but I figured might as well have another shelf. So that's about it. These things are going to go on the bottom, and they're 20 inches wide, so the thing will be 20 inches wide when I'm done, and that should be more than wide enough to prevent it from tipping. I mean, I had it on a 12-inch wide pedestal before. Yeah, if you're stupid, yes, you can knock it over. But OSHA doesn't visit my shop, so I'm not worried about it. So it's going to be 20 inches wide, and it's going to have casters on it. Some people say, oh, you shouldn't put casters on an Arbor press. Well, you know, if you feel that way, come to my shop and carry it around for me. So I may put a couple of forks out in front of it to prevent it from tipping forward. I'm not worried about it tipping from side to side, but when you put a lot of weight on it when you're pulling down on the bar, it could conceivably tip forward. So I'm thinking I may put a couple of forks sticking out toward the front, and I'll put a couple of screws pointing down through them. You know, I'll weld some threaded things in there that screws can go through, and they'll push little feet onto the floor in front of the Arbor press, and that way when you pull down on the bar, you'll be pushing down on those forks, and it won't go forward and, you know, kill you or embarrass you or whatever. So we'll see what happens. I really just wanted a welding project. If it turns out it's not a great idea, then so what? At least I got to learn how to weld stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to tell you about this before I shut off the camera. I guess that's about it. My first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to clean off the metal because I hate getting filth all over me. So I plan to clean it in 2 stages. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to get a mop with a little bit of Dawn and water in a bucket, and I'm just going to mop the crud off of it, because stuff, when you buy it from the metal supplier, it's always covered with black not just mill scale, but scale dust, which is disgusting. So it's easier just to get rid of that when you start, you know. So I think what I may do is just mop it off with a mop to get rid of the obvious loose stuff, and then I'm going to do what I did with the pedestal. I'm going to take it over to my buffer and hit it with a wire wheel and get the rust off of it. I mean, not perfectly, but to where it's not driving me crazy. I don't know, maybe I should reverse those operations because I'll probably have to clean it off after I use the wire wheel. It'll probably get a little flash rust afterward. I don't care about flash rust. I just care about this hideous stuff that gets everywhere and, you know, drives me crazy. So that's how it's going to go. I almost changed my mind. I almost decided to do this with a wire knot wheel. Oh boy, I don't have my safety glasses on. Where are they? Here they are. Anyway, I almost decided to do this with a knot wheel on the angle grinder, which works really well. But I decided this might be easier and faster, so I gave it a little shot on a piece of metal, and it seems to work pretty well. So this is what I'm going to use. I'll just show you a little bit of me doing it. It's not really the most exciting footage on earth. And I've decided to make a revolutionary change. I'm going to wear a respirator when I do this instead of just inhaling carcinogens and rust and crud. So that'll be a new thing for me. Okay, this is great. How do you put this thing in here? I hate this thing. This is why I don't wear it. It's hard to put on. How can you do this to me? Oh, never mind. No, really, I'm going to get this. It's impossible to fasten behind her neck. You have to be a contortionist. I'll just cut this part out. Okay, I'm going to turn this thing off. Hang on. Okay, I totally figured that out. I think that's working well enough. You don't really need to watch me do this whole thing. Well, I turned away from my camera for 30 seconds and started taking pictures of the floor again. That must be a feature. So here's what happened. I used the wire wheel for a while and it really seemed like it was too slow. So I'm going at it with the knot wheel. So that's like 100 times better. That's what I'm going to do. Now I guess I'll take some more pictures of the floor while I'm away. Well, this crazy camera has been taking pictures of the wall and the floor over and over again for, I guess it took me 45 minutes. I'm going to make a wild guess to clean up this metal. I honestly don't understand it. Maybe in China where they designed this thing, taking pictures of the floor is good luck. It brings you good luck. I don't know the answer. It can't be a religious thing because the leftist government destroyed the religions there, I think, didn't they? I'm not sure. Anyhow, here we go. It looks pretty good. Knocked all the crud off of it. I mean, it still has, you know, a certain amount of rust and scale on it, but now it's shiny rust and scale. So that's good enough. You may be wondering what the giant wood plane on the welding table is for. That's very complicated, highly technical. If I were to explain that, I'd have to explain the spray paint and the dirty paper towel. So I'll get around to that later. But things are looking pretty good. Well, now that my metal's all shiny, I'm going to open this plate up and I'm going to kind of rough it and then I'll fix it up on the belt grinder, which is a much nicer tool. I'm going to try to use the plasma cutter. I have a history of setting it up incorrectly and doing things like not grounding it and not turning the gas on or whatever. So it'll be entertaining to see what happens. I can't find my special hypertherm protective glasses, so I have to use a welding hood. And I know somebody must have stolen them because I never ever make a mistake or put anything where it's not supposed to be. Here goes nothing. That could really possibly be actually what happened. Okay, I know how to do this. I really do. And now my tiny compressor's upset. My real compressor is still in another city. Come on. Alright, see what happens this time. I never do this quite right. There's always a second and a third pass. That wasn't too bad. I'm going to move my little guide thing over. Let's see if I can do the other side better. I couldn't do it much worse. And of course I've done it again. Every time I do this, the first hole just sticks. And the compressor's going down. Good enough. Well, I went over it again, and now I'm just trying to pry this thing off using some of the worst pliers on earth. Everybody seems to love Klein tools. All right, if you like Klein tools, explain this. If they're such great tools, I got 2 pairs of their pliers. These things are falling apart. They're about to come off. It costs like $10 for a replacement set of these things, because you have to send away to get them. I mean, you have to, if you want to take advantage of the warranty, you can't just take this to a local place. You got to send it to Klein. So I'm done buying this junk. I know everybody loves and worships Klein tools. You really got to come out from under the ether, because you're mistaken. I am not totally sure what to do with this thing. If my milling machine was here, I would be done with this by now. I tried to put it on the belt grinder, I'm sorry, but it really won't fit. I thought there might be some way to weasel it around, so at least I could cut these long bits, and then I could fix this up with a hand grinder or something. So I'm going to see what happens to the old angle grinder. I don't know if it'll work, but I like using it, so I'm going to do it. Yeah, it works. You probably don't want to watch this. I've taken a bunch of excellent pictures of the, of this thing in burst mode. The camera's continuing its own independent YouTube creation. So it's photo essay, I guess it is. Anyway, what I'm doing now is I'm using this thing. This is a zip wheel, which is a really nice abrasive wheel from, excuse me, Walter Abrasives. And what I'm doing is I'm using it to kind of sculpt this stuff away. Instead of cutting all the way down through it like I did on the other side, I'm kind of doing this. And I figure if I do this long enough, I'll eventually be pretty close to my highly sophisticated. I feel like I need to start or end all of my videos with an apology reel. It's amazing the technical problems that I have. So today, first of all, I apologize for starting the videos while I was speaking. I didn't realize I was doing that. In fact, I don't think I did do it. I think the way my camera is set up, you hit the button to start the camera rolling, and then you have to wait before it actually does anything. So anyway, I was pushing the button today, and I thought I was recording, and apparently I was not. So some stuff got cut off, but I said to myself, I'm not going to rebuild this part and shoot a new video because of that. So you get what you get. What else? I apologize because my camera doesn't have any sort of feature that lets me know when the battery is about to go dead. It just dies, and then you look at it and you find out that whatever it is you just did, like your first child being born or whatever it is you recorded, it's probably not really that important. It hasn't been recorded at all. So I thought I was recording, and I was not, and my camera died. I apologize. Next time I'll make sure I charge the batteries. Let's see. So you didn't get to see the total finished product. What I ended up doing was I used the angle grinder and shaped this thing out surprisingly nicely. I mean, I was shocked how well it came out. It was, I would say that it was within, I made straight lines that were maybe within, in the worst place, 30 thousandths of where they should have been. And maybe I'm patting myself on the back too much, but it looked like that. So anyway, no, I'm sorry. The angle grinder, I got pretty close. But I finished it up with a do-more hand grinder. And a do-more hand grinder is what a Dremel would be if Dremels weren't junk. They're industrial tools, and I found a nice one on eBay that somebody bought and apparently either never used or rarely used. I spent like 90 bucks on it. And it's just a really nice industrial hand grinder that will last forever, as contrasted with a Dremel. You're lucky if it works when you get it out of the box. So I put a carbide burr in that, a big, nice industrial, you know, serious American-made carbide burr, and I finished up, and that's when I got really close. So the picture you're looking at right now is a shot of the hole that I made, and I will try to switch to another picture now, and we'll see what kind of luck I have with that. And anyway, boy, it's so difficult to make all this technological junk work. I wish I had a 12-year-old to do this for me. So here it is without the Sharpie on it, all sort of cleaned up. And I think that's, you have to admit, that's pretty good for some guy with a hand grinder and a 6-inch Metabo angle grinder with no milling machine. My sad tale of woe, I don't want to get into it again, it's very depressing. But I think it came out all right. I am very pleased with that. Of course, I'm going to cut off those edges, make sure there's no burrs on it, you know, make it nice and smooth and rounded and all that. But I think that's going to work. I think that's going to be okay. So this is a picture, this final picture, if it ever pops up, shows you how close I got to 2 inches, which is my goal. This thing, the place where I measured this, it's 1.965. So it's within like 35 thousandths of 2 inches. And of course, it's not completely uniform, so there's probably places where it's a little over 2 inches. There's probably places where it's right at 2 inches. I feel pretty good about that. I can always go in there later on, and even, you know, when you're that close, you can probably fix it with sandpaper if you have a little patience. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy. That's what's going on. So I got all that done, and I had to come in and take off my clothes and put them in the washing machine because they were covered from the carbide thing. The carbide burr throws off tiny, sharp splinters, and there were thousands and thousands of these things on my shirt. So I had to put my pants and my shirt in the washing machine by themselves, and I'm hoping that either it will remove the splinters or they will rust. I don't know. I don't really know the answer to this. I tried to shake as many of them off as I could. I don't really understand how people deal with these things. So I'm done with this project for today, and the next thing I do, I'm going to take I believe I'm going to take the middle shelf, and I have to cut the corners out so the tubing will fit into the corners. And after that, I hope to start welding. So I think this may actually work. If not, you should get a lot of enjoyment out of watching me fail. So thanks for watching, and now I'll see if I can upload this audio file that I'm trying to record. Chips O'Toole out.